And what a busy day it's been. And it's always sad to come to the end of ABLF Talks, but the good part of it is I get to talk to Riz Khan. So Riz, who I haven't been able to talk to all day because he's been busy on one side and I've been busy on the other. Riz, thank you so much for being with us earlier today, and a great session, of course, looking at what's going on with Expo 2021, indeed.
That's right, Eithne. It's really nice to reconnect. And yes, that was fun. We've actually reconnected with Najib Mohammed Al Ali, who's the Expo 2020 director, and he's such a great speaker. Actually, I must say, it's great when the UAE and the Gulf region produces people who can really connect and tell the story properly. Because there was quite a few issues he had to cover. The fact that Expo took a huge knock in terms of its scheduling because of the pandemic and the lockdowns. So of course it's starting a year from now in October 2021. I kept saying I like to think of it as Expo 2020 plus, because obviously it's very Expo 2020. But I've got to say it was interesting because he touched on a lot of key issues, including how well prepared they are to try to take this forward and make it as good as it should have been had it not been for the pandemic.
Indeed, yes. And as always, it was great to have His Highness Sheikh Nahayan Al Nahayan open the event. It's always so wonderful to have him with us here, and a huge supporter he's been with us. And again, at a time when his role, when you think of it, the Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence, it was almost part of the theme, and something that I kept hearing from everybody today, really talking about the fact that when we look at the concept of deglobalization, the chairman of the Finance Commission said he hoped it was just a fashion of the day, so to speak, but he said ultimately he felt that globalization will win out, and this is really what more people in the world want, and it actually does more good than harm. Challenges, without a doubt, are there, but we really need to be looking at stronger globalization rather than any protectionism that people might be thinking of putting in place.
Of course, I just flew into London yesterday from the USA, from Washington, D.C., the capital, on my way back to Dubai in a couple of weeks. And the sense of tension you can imagine with the election taking place literally as I was flying out. It's all part of the highlight of the sort of pandemic year, if you like, how 2020 has been in many ways a year that felt like it created divisions, whether within countries or across regions and so on. So the uniting factor of the Expo, for example, we discussed that is quite important in bringing people back together. And of course, we are feeling the tensions of a world that doesn't really know where it's going as far as, virtual borders have come down quite a lot, as we're doing with this, the ABLF event. And yet the physical borders seem to be going up in many other places. So it's going to be an interesting dichotomy that shapes 2021. It's going to be a very interesting year to look forward to. Definitely, I hope it's better than 2020.
Indeed, yes. And I think we heard that from everybody. I talked to also, of course, the Minister for Food and Water Security here, Mariam El Mahri, in the UAE. And again, she was talking about really this is the time for everybody to work together, because those of us in countries that probably have more food and water security, can help those who don't. And we really need to be reaching out to our neighbors at this point rather than putting those barriers in place. And even that conversation with Suhail and Diana Hamadi too, talking about, the need for globalization and to strengthen that. But I was fascinated by the conversation I had with the chief scientist of the World Health Organization. And without a doubt, one major call there that we all can do our bit, and that the power of everybody, not giving us, too much optimism in terms of a date for the vaccine. As she said, we still have so much work to do. We're months ahead. It's going to be well into next year. So I suppose a cautious optimism coming from her without a doubt, but at the same time too, talking about the fact that we all have a role to play and just basically staying safe and healthy. There was a bit of a cry for that as well. There's a lot we can all do ourselves.
Of course, yeah, the sustainability factor and the self-sufficiency that nations need to start exploring and approaching is very much entrenched in the UN SDGs. I remember, it didn't seem that long ago I was covering the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, as they called them back then, 8 of them, and the target, of 2015 was obviously turned out very unrealistic, and no one was able to meet any of the goals to any real degree. So when they reshaped them as the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, they kind of broke them up into 17 and tried to expand them into a longer time frame. But of course, no one expected how much damage this pandemic would do in terms of knocking everyone back. And yet, we're quite a hardy species. We are trying to move forward and innovation. And of course, when you were explaining how you spoke with the UAE Minister of Food Security and Water, and I remember a conversation with her that the kind of things that are being done in the UAE in terms of growth and self-sufficiency for food security absolutely blew me away. I didn't realize that, there were so many products being put together in the UAE that are not typical of the region. So we are having to learn to be a little more self-sufficient.
Indeed, yes. Even down to home farming in the UAE now, people are getting excited about. They're not just gardening here. During this pandemic, people have actually turned to small home farming. But some of the great tech initiatives that are happening in terms of the waters and the fisheries and food, it's been and the R&D that's going on in sort of tech agriculture has just been fascinating. And talking actually about tech, I think I heard this, recur through everybody's talk to the dependence on technology, what technology has done for everything. And we had Dr. Sheikh Tharoor, of course, he's a parliamentary standing committee on information technology in India. So much happening there. And, also even His Excellency N.K. Singh talking about, the power of technology that has really brought us all together. And, a time that we're grateful for it, I think, without a doubt. Here we are, depending on the technology. But it was also something, in terms of the SDGs, in terms of globalization, almost technology being a unifying force in many ways as well.
Well, think about this, Eithne, just taking us back to when we first met years ago at the BBC and launching BBC World Service TV. Just think back then, there was no breaking news except CNN had just come on the scene and was starting to do it. There was no such thing as breaking news. Only a few years earlier, the BBC, while I was there, had shifted from using film to video. And the video was kind of cumbersome and slow and not that high quality. So think where we've come, that, within that period of time, we have more technology in our pockets, on our phones, than entire kind of newsrooms did, when you think about it. So it's quite scary how far it's come. And that has to be unifying in some ways, because, it was funny. I was listening to a report the other day how in some countries, when you have people actually, who are like homeless or whatever, and especially in the developing world, and they're going around begging, a lot of them they have mobile phones and they can scan QR codes so money can be deposited to them without having to give any cash. That's really a strange kind of progress, but it's ironic when you think about it. It's technology.
And indeed, yes, that technology is, quite extraordinary, whereby we could, yes, report a story had happened, but we'd be lucky sometimes if we got the pictures to go with it for a week sometimes, because they had to be shipped. And sometimes they had to cross borders where there were wars going on. And I've heard of tapes, been sort of smuggled across and various things. But it took sometimes a week. And then we would put the pictures on the air and say, yeah, this is the story we mentioned last week. We wouldn't get away with it now. In fact, look at what's happening here, whereby we're getting the latest up-to-date detail and information. But one other part of what we had on today, and I know you didn't get a chance to see it, I think you were busy, was William Dalrymple, the historian, talking about the book, The Anarchy, the East India Company. I caught a bit of that. I'm going to go back, as everybody can, and replay many of the videos. But that was absolutely fascinating, looking back, on the history of the East India Company and what was going on back in the day, so to speak. And I think it's probably something that everybody, not just in India, because it became a global company. I think there'll be huge interest on that. So I'm looking forward to replaying that one, Riz.
Actually, he's someone I interviewed a while back with the Lit Fest in Dubai. And it's interesting because also, if you recall, Sheikh Tharoor himself has written a lot about things that tie into that era with the colonial legacy. So it's also kind of interesting how that connection, the way trade used to bridge countries, not always in an equitable way, was very much a factor in bringing the world together. Now, of course, there's much more equity in the way people do trade. Still a lot to fix. But when people like Dalrymple and Sheikh Tharoor also talk about how that history we've come from, it is fascinating to see how far it's moved across because of technology.
And of course, I know we're going to wrap this up, and I want to thank all the people who have joined us. But Riz, you and I have actually been working with the ABLF, the Asian Business Leadership Forum, for several years now, and just it really has gone from strength to strength. And I want to thank everybody out there too. The numbers that we had checking in, I think it's very encouraging, and we loved your questions and loved the fact that this forum, this organization, and now the ABLF Talks, we're able to bring it to you virtual. It's an exciting time really to connect all these people around the world, isn't it?
Not only that, I have to admire the way, and you're right, we've both been with the ABLF a good, 10, 15 years roughly, I think it's been. It's interesting that the sort of creation of the virtual city and the way it's been done is actually a lot more advanced than many other online events I've been a part of or seen. So yeah, big congratulations to the team, because they work very hard. I know them, and they do work very hard. So it's great that we have this opportunity, because I think you're going to be announcing the next one, I think, Eithne.
I will indeed. You can do it if you want, but between the two of us, we'll be looking forward to coming back in December. And obviously, the next time we come back, we're going to have a new president in the White House. Well, we will have a president in the White House, and we'll know who it is, Riz.
Yeah, I know. It's quite interesting, because I didn't sleep too much last night. I flew in, and there's going to be a while before we really know. But it has been interesting watching all the different coverage. And I found myself waking up every few minutes just to check to see what sort of updates been happening. I thought the 2000 election, which obviously was a kind of scandalous one in its own way, with what happened in Florida and the hanging chads, and then finally George W. Bush getting it, though Al Gore technically had won. I referred to it jokingly as the USA selection instead of election. And it's quite scary that it's even worse and more divided this time. And I certainly left a very, very, very divided America when I set off to come through London on the way back to the UAE.
Hopefully, Riz, by the time you get back there, things will have calmed down, and there'll be lots going on that'll be of great interest. But I think we heard from all of our people today really talking about the role of globalization, and one of the areas that we'll definitely be looking at when it comes to the US will be, the future of the World Trade Organization, and, the global development banks and all of that, and the institutions, I think, that are so important globally. And, hopefully those institutions will continue to have American support in them. So Riz, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in December, I hope.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, likewise.
Super. Well, thank you to Riz, and indeed, thank you to everybody who's been with us here. Stay, alive on social media. Keep up the momentum. We're at #ABLF City, so we always like to hear from you, and we'll, continue to keep an eye on what's going on. And for anybody out there, we'll still have our Partner Expo open. This fabulous platform. Even Riz was talking about it here. It is. It's very dynamic. It's very interesting the way it has been designed, and also, it's designed with the future in mind. Really an exciting platform whereby you can have a look at some of the older videos and go through and look at many of our partners too. The ABLF Times is there, and look at other ABLF talks. So there's a lot there that you can see. And of course, for this conclave, the ABLF partners are Aster DM Healthcare, Etisalat, FICCI, and MAA partners. So we've had some tremendous support, and it's also great to have so many people out there, the media support and the media partners, CNBC Arabia and the Entrepreneur Middle East. So the networking lounge is still open. There might be a few of your colleagues and friends there, maybe somebody to catch up with just before you close off for the day. And if you've missed any of the sessions today, and I know it was hard to keep up with all of them, we will have them on demand, and really they're tremendous sessions, great information, great content in there that will be so worthwhile looking back over. There's some of them that I didn't quite get to see myself, so I'm going to make sure that I get and see them later when I have a little bit of downtime. So much there to see. And of course, we'll look forward to seeing you again. If anybody is looking to join us, have a look at the partner booth. You can connect with us there. We will be in touch. And also, in terms of speakers, anybody you'd like to hear from, any topics you'd like to see discussed, we're going to be coming monthly. So we have a big agenda for the next at least 9 months and more ahead. So lots on the books, and we're really looking at what we can cover and, you know, what's on your mind and what would be of interest to you. And of course, the main information desk in the Dome area. So enjoy the platform. It's been designed with you in mind from the team at IDEA with Melanie Menon and the great team that has put this together, the great work that's been put in place, the technical team. We're all very proud of them. And we want to make sure that it's something that you enjoy and you can partake of as well. So the third conclave, we're going to be coming back to you on December 7th for the next edition of ABLF Talks. And until then, I'm Eithne Treanor, and for myself, from Melanie Menon, from all of the team at IDEA and the ABLF, we're going to leave you for today and wish you well and wish you a very, very good month ahead until we come back and talk to you on December 7th. Thank you so much for being with us.